The race for U.S. Senate tops Tuesday's ballot for Texas Democrats. Air Force veteran MJ Hegar and State Senator Royce West are battling for the nomination. Hegar voted Thursday and talked about concerns many people have about voting during the pandemic.
You know, it's pretty ridiculous that we have to do this in person because we have a governor and a legislature that can't seem to figure out, unlike 34 other states have been able to do, how to let us vote by mail safely and securely, but here we are because it's just too damn important to let them scare us into silence.
West says his decades of experience in the state legislature make him the best candidate for the job. He spoke Friday during an online interview with our media partners, the Texas Tribune.
I have been in a Republican-dominated legislature most of my public servant career, but I've been able to get things done. And the only way that you can get things done is to work across the aisle and make certain you develop coalitions based on interest. I've been able to do that.
Whoever wins the Democratic nomination will take on incumbent Senator John Cornyn in November. In the past week, Cornyn's campaign has put added focus on West. They've run ads against him and even highlighted a poll showing him gaining ground. That made us wonder why, so our John Engel asked the senator to explain.
Your campaign has seemed to get a little bit more involved in the runoff in the last couple of weeks. We saw the ad buy in the last couple of days. Why the involvement at this stage, and your response to MJ saying that you want Royce to win? What would you say to that?
Well, I'm not voting in the Democratic runoff, so I'm not going to have a vote in who wins and who loses. But I've been frankly a little astonished at how bad a job the candidates have done identifying, who they are and what they believe, and so it's good to get a little bit of clarity there with in terms of where they stand on various issues. I think both of them are pretty much out of the mainstream of Texas values and voters, but I'm glad to see them clarifying some of that.
President Trump signaled support for another round of stimulus for Americans who are struggling in this time. What do you know about that process, and what can you tell us about what comes next, maybe even a timeline?
Well, the timeline I would say would be probably the week after next. We'll go back into session, and we have about a 3-week period there where we will take up and pass another COVID-19 response bill. What the components of it are, I can't tell you completely because there's been a lot of work behind the scenes on various ideas. We know that a direct payment to individuals was done initially because they needed some financial help when they, through no fault of their own, had no income. And then we expanded unemployment insurance. We provided the Paycheck Protection Program to small businesses. Those seem to work pretty well, but there are other parts of it that I think we may need to reprogram some of the money we've already appropriated to put it in other places where the money could be used while we rebuild out of this recession that we've literally been in.
Senator Cornyn has been in office since 2002. He is currently running for his 4th term in the Senate. This primary runoff is the first time we're seeing changes at polling places due to COVID-19, but voters are still turning out. Up next, we'll look closer at some of the big races in Texas that are bringing people to the polls.